Vanishing signal, the arcade on Elm Street. In the autumn of 1983, the small town of Coldwater, Michigan, was a place where time seemed to crawl. The streets were lined with mom-and-pop shops, their neon signs flickering against the grey dusk. Among them was Neon Haven, a dimly lit arcade tucked between a laundromat and a shuttered hardware store on Elm Street. It was the kind of place where kids burned through their allowances, feeding quarters into machines that blipped and screeched with synthetic life. But in September of that year, something new appeared in the arcade machine that didn't belong. It was called the Signal. Unlike the other cabinets, with their garish decals and bold titles like Pagman or Gallagher, this one was austere. Its cabinet was matte black, unadorned except for a small glowing screen above the controls, displaying a single word in green, pixelated text. Signal the machine had no manufacturer's logo, no copyright date, just a coin slot and a joystick, with two buttons, one red, one white. The screen flickered faintly, even when no one was playing, emitting a low hum that seemed to vibrate in your bones. Kids whispered about it. Some said it had appeared overnight, as if dropped from the sky. Others swore they'd seen a man in a grey coat, face obscured by a fedora, tinkering with its wires before vanishing into the alley behind the arcade. By the end of the week, a small crowd gathered around it daily, drawn not by flashy graphics but by something intangible pull, like gravity. Jake Harper, a lanky 15-year-old with a mop of brown hair and a penchant for skipping algebra, was the first to play it. He'd been saving quarters for Street Fighter, but that Friday, something about the Signal caught his eye. He dropped a coin into the slot, and the machine whirred to life. The screen pulsed with static, then resolved into a maze of shifting lines, like a circuit board come to life. No characters, no enemies, just a single white dot that Jake controlled with the joystick, navigating through an endless labyrinth of glowing paths. The objective wasn't clear, but the dot left a trail of light behind it, and every time it crossed a certain node, the machine let out a deep, resonant ping that made his teeth ache. Jake played for hours. When his friend Sarah tried to pull him away, he snapped at her, his eyes bloodshot, his hands trembling on the joystick. By the time the arcade closed, he'd spent every quarter he had. That night, he didn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying the maze, the ping, the hum. He felt it calling him back. The obsession word spread quickly. By Monday, the Signal had a cult following. Kids lined up before school, their backpacks still slung over their shoulders, waiting for a turn. The game didn't have a high-score table, but players spoke of levels that didn't exist in any manual. Some claimed they'd seen words flash on the screen, phrases like find the source or follow the signal, but no one could agree on what they meant. Others reported headaches, nosebleeds, or strange dreams after playing. One girl, Emily, swore she'd seen her own face reflected in the screen, but it wasn't her reflection. It was smiling when she wasn't. Parents began to notice changes. Kids who played the Signal grew distant, their conversations fixated on the game. They sketched mazes in their notebooks, lines spiraling into impossible patterns. Some stopped eating, others stopped speaking altogether. Jake, once a talkative kid who loved comic books, became a ghost of himself. His mother, Ellen, found him sitting in the dark, muttering about the Signal and the source. When she asked what he meant, he just stared through her, his eyes glassy. By October, the arcade was packed every night, but the Signal dominated. Other machines sat unused, their screens dark. The owner, a gruff man named Carl, didn't know where the machine had come from. He claimed a distributor had dropped it off, but when pressed he couldn't recall the details. "It pays," he'd say, shrugging, as he emptied the coin box, which was always full. Then the disappearances began. The vanishing. The first was Emily. She'd been playing the Signal for 3 hours straight on a rainy Tuesday when she stepped away, pale and sweating. She told a friend she was going to the bathroom but never returned. Her parents searched the town. The police combed the woods, but she was gone. No trace, no witnesses. The arcade's regulars whispered that the Signal had taken her, though no one could explain what that meant. A week later, another kid vanished, then another. By November, 5 teenagers were missing, all linked to the Signal. The town was in a panic. Parents forbade their kids from going to Neon Haven, but some snuck out anyway, drawn back to the machine. Jake was one of them. He'd climb out his window at night, his mother's pleas echoing behind him, and run to the arcade. He'd play until dawn, his fingers raw, his mind a fog of static and light. The police investigated. They unplugged the Signal, but the screen stayed on, flickering faintly. They tried to move it, but the machine wouldn't budge. as if welded to the floor. A technician was called to open it, but the back panel was sealed with no visible screws or lid. When he drilled into it, sparks flew, and the drill bit snapped. Inside, there were no circuit boards, no wires, just a black, viscous liquid that smelled like burnt copper. The technician quit on the spot. The signal song. By December, Coldwater was a town under siege. The disappearances had stopped, but the fear hadn't. Neon Haven was boarded up, its windows covered with plywood, but the signal remained inside, untouched. Kids who'd played it were different now. They moved in groups, speaking in low voices about the source. They drew the same symbol everywhere, a circle, with a jagged line cutting through it, like a broken signal wave. It appeared on walls, in school bathrooms, carved into trees. Jake was the worst off. He hadn't spoken to his mother in weeks. He'd stopped going to school, stopped eating anything but saltines and water. At night, he'd sit in his room, rocking back and forth, humming a low, atonal melody that made Elon's skin crawl. She called it the signal song. When she tried to take him to a doctor, he screamed, his voice raw, "It's not done with me." One night, Ellen woke to find Jake gone. She ran to Neon Haven, her heart pounding. The arcade's door was ajar, the lock broken. Inside, the signal was on, its screen pulsing with green light. Jake stood before it, his hands on the joystick, his body rigid. The screen showed no maze, no Dodger static, and within it, shapes that seemed to move, like figures in a storm. Ellen grabbed his arm, but he didn't flinch. His eyes were wide, unblinking, reflecting the static. She screamed his name, but he didn't hear her. Then the screen went black, and Jake was gone. Ellen collapsed, sobbing, as the machine hummed softly. She swore she heard voices in the hum, whispers, overlapping, calling her name. The source. The years passed, and Coldwater tried to forget. Neon Haven was demolished, the lot left empty. No one spoke of the signal, but the symbol persisted, scrawled in alleys, etched into gravestones. The missing kids were never found, their cases unsolved. Ellen moved away, haunted by her son's disappearance. She died in 1990. Her last words, a plea to find the source. In 2025, a group of urban explorers came to Coldwater, drawn by the legend of the signal. They found the empty lot, now overgrown with weeds, and set up cameras to document their search. One of them, a hacker named Riley, brought a device to detect electromagnetic signals. As they poked through the rubble, her device went wild, picking up a frequency that shouldn't have existed, a low, pulsing hum that matched the one Ellen had described. Riley followed the signal to a storm drain beneath the lot. Against her friend's protests, she crawled inside, her flashlight flickering. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and smelled of burnt copper. At its end, she found a chamber, its walls covered in the same jagged symbol. In the center was a machine, or what was left of it. It was the signal, its cabinet cracked but still humming, its screen glowing faintly. Riley approached, her heart racing. The screen flickered, and words appeared. "You found the source." She didn't have time to scream. The screen flared, and the chamber filled with static, not just visual but auditory, tactile cacophony that drowned out thought. Her friends, waiting above, heard nothing but silence. When they checked the footage later, it was corrupted, showing only glimpses of Riley's face, distorted, smiling when she wasn't. The endless maze, the legend of the signal lives on, not in arcades but in the dark corners of the internet. Forums buzz with stories of a game that never existed, a machine that steals souls. Some say it's still out there, appearing in abandoned places, warehouses, basements, forgotten arcades. Others claim it's not a machine at all but something older, something that wears technology like a mask. Those who've seen it describe the same hum, the same maze, the same pull. They speak of dreams where they walk through endless circuits, chasing a light they can never reach. They hear the signal's song, a melody that lingers in their bones, and in those dreams, they see the missing Melly, Jake Riley, standing at the edge of the maze, their faces blank, their eyes glowing green. No one knows what the signal wants or where it came from. Some call it a government experiment, others a curse. But those who've played it, who've felt its hum, know the truth. It's alive, and it's hungry. It doesn't just take, it rewrites you, makes you part of the maze, part of the signal, and somewhere in a dark corner of the world, it's waiting for the next player to drop a coin.